Hi guys, my name is Joshua. I'm a private ACT tutor and an ACT instructor here at ECP, and I have an ACT score of 1540, 750 on the English and 790 on the maths. So I took the ACT twice. The first time I got a 1480, a 700 on the English section and a 780 on the maths section. And on my second test, I got a 1540, a 750 on the English section and a 790 on the maths section. It took me about 3 months to prepare for my first test because it was my first time taking the ACT and I had to learn all the content from scratch. Of course, I knew the content before in 11th and 12th grade, but I also had to know how to do the questions on the ACT in order to get a good score. So I took my time to learn the content, then to practice. So I used a lot of third-party resources and also practice exams to prepare for that test. So it took me about 3 months. And on my second exam, it took me about a month and a half. I took my first exam on October of 2020, and I took my second exam on October of 2022. So since I had a 2-year gap between my two exams, I had a lot of time to gain experience and to get accustomed to the types of questions found on the ACT. So it didn't take me as much time to prepare for my second exam as it did for my first one. So it took me about only a month and a half of active preparation to prepare for my second ACT. And since I had also taught here at ECP, I have been teaching here at ECP. I had gained a lot of experience through teaching, and I had gotten very comfortable with the types of questions found on the ACT. So it took me about a month and a half of active preparation for my second exam, on which I got a 1540 on. I used two different types of resources for my two exams. For the first one, I used a lot of reading material, content, and other strategy books to enhance my understanding of the actual ACT exam. But for the second one, I only used a lot of practice materials. Like I did and used a ton of practice exams from all over the years. I did all the practice questions. So for my first exam, I used a lot of third-party resources and other reading materials to read, and I also did 20 practice exams. So half of them were from Khan Academy, half of them were from the College Board website. So I used those tools to get me ready for the exam. And since I had ran out of practice exams at the time, I did all the 20 practice exams before. So I needed new materials to work on. So I visited the subreddit r/ACT to find a lot of previously assigned and given ACTs. So real ACTs from previous years. So I downloaded all of them and did them. So there was a lot more content for me to practice upon. And I used those practice exams to prepare for my second ACT. If I was asked this question a year ago, my answer would be totally different. But now, since the ACT has integrated a digital form of the ACT, content has changed. And with that, the amount of practice exams available for students has very much declined. So there isn't much practice content available for students wanting to take the digital ACT. So because of that, I would consider the best preparing resource for the ACT at this moment to be Khan Academy. So Khan Academy updated its content right when the ACT turned digital. So you can find up-to-date and relevant information still on the Khan Academy. And since the Khan Academy website classifies the topics found on the ACT based on their domain and based on each question type, it's very easy to spot your weaknesses, spot your strengths, and do more on your weaknesses. So since the Khan Academy uses very updated and relevant information for students in hand, and since it's free, I would recommend students wanting to take the digital ACT to use Khan Academy as their main resource of preparation. I'd also recommend trying out the Blue Book app. The Blue Book app is what the College Board uses to administer its tests. So if you're wanting to take the digital ACT, you're gonna have to do it on the Blue Book app. So it's an app the College Board created to administer these tests. So on the Blue Book app, you can register your account and you can actually do a simulated test on the app. So every single question, everything the same as what you would experience on an actual ACT. So it will time you, it will get you accustomed with the features or the things you're going to expect when taking the ACT. So I'd really recommend taking those practice exams in order for you to get comfortable with the question types of the exam. So it's kind of hard to count at this point because I had already stated in the previous video that I did more than 20 practice exams. I did all of the practice exams on the College Board account. I did all of the practice exams on the Khan Academy. And since I had ran out of resources on my second ACT, I had to do a lot of other previously administered ACTs. So added with them, I would say that I took about 30 plus, 35 plus practice exams in total practice exams. So speaking from personal experience, I feel so comfortable in saying that taking practice exams or practicing in general is the most important factor in getting a top score, or for me personally, at least. So for my first ACT, I had to read through a lot of content, a lot of articles, a lot of preparation websites, books, and other things, and I still managed to get a 1480. But after 2 years, by doing a few more practice exams, I had managed to dramatically increase my score to a 1540. So I would be an example for how practice makes perfect. Even though you're very comfortable with the content of the ACT, you might not be comfortable with the questions on the ACT. The content is very easy, but it's the way that the questions are presented and the way that the College Board presents the questions that makes it tricky and time consuming for students. So doing practice is the only way to solve these two problems, time management and solving tricky questions. So through practice, I personally had been able to go through a whole reading test on the previous paper-based ACT with no time constraints and no time pressures. I personally would advise students to take more practice exams, obviously, as many others would say. But since now the ACT has turned digital, a lot of you might be worried on what content to find. So there are, I think, only 4 practice exams on the Khan Academy. So there's not a lot of content to practice with. So I'd recommend using old paper-based ACT questions to practice for your exams. Since all of the content of the paper-based ACT coincides with a specific content with the digital ACT, it's just the same content asked in a different way. So you just have to know the concepts and you just have to get comfortable with the type of questions. So doing a paper-based ACT question will automatically increase your chances of getting a digital ACT question right. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do digital ACT questions, you still have to do them, but if you're running out of content to practice on, you can definitely use previous paper-based ACT content to help you practice and get your scores high. So as I previously mentioned, you can find digital ACT practice content on the Khan Academy website. And if you also want to use paper-based ACT practice content, you can find it on the Khan Academy website and also the College Board website. There are about 20 of those on the 2 websites. And you can also use different previously administered ACT exams on the subreddit r/ACT. They're pinned up there, so you can use these practice materials to help you get a top score on the ACT.